Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. Curfew. The sun dipped behind the aged hills that cradled the quaint town of Ashgrove, casting long shadows over the cobblestone streets and shuttered storefronts. Downtown whispers died with the amber light, and an almost tangible dread ripened in the evening air. At exactly 8:55 p.m., every light in Ashgrove dimmed or went dark. By 9 o'clock sharp, the town fell mute beneath a cloak of silence, as if the very breath of the town held its place in time, waiting for a shadowed omen to pass. No one in Ashgrove would admit why this was. The 9 p.m. curfew was absolute and unchallenged. Not a soul crossed a threshold after the mandated hour. Not one shop left its windows lit. Not a porch light remained burning. Not a car dared glide down the streets. The curfew was enforced by more than just law or threat. It was folklore carved into the bone of Ashgrove. Laura Merrick had just moved to the town, a journalist chasing a quiet life away from the cacophony of the city. She was drawn to Ashgrove's picturesque facade, the old brick town hall, the tall oak trees knotted on the sidewalks like ancient guardians, the sleepy cafes where paperbacks spilled stories on tabletops. It was every bit a town straight out of a storybook, but beneath the quaint veneer was a secret that no one spoke aloud. On her first evening, as she unpacked her belongings in a ramshackle rented cottage on the edge of town, a soft knock echoed through the hallway. She opened the door to find Mrs. Conrad, the elderly neighbor from 2 doors away, clutching a knitted shawl tighter around her frail shoulders. "Don't be out after dark, dear," Mrs. Conrad said with careful emphasis on the warning. 9 o'clock. We all lock our doors once the clock strikes. It's for your own good. May I ask why? Laura's voice was gentle, hopeful she hadn't offended. Mrs. Conrad's gaze flicked to the street, where the last rays of sun fled beneath the horizon. Her eyes darkened. Some things, child, are better not understood. That night, Laura sat by the fireplace, the old wood stove creaking and murmuring like a ghost from another era. Her mind replayed the cryptic warning. She pulled out her laptop and began to search for mentions of Ashgrove in news archives, hoping to uncover just a whisper of explanation. History books, newspaper cutouts, nothing. If the curfew had a cause, it was buried beneath layers of silence. The next morning, she ventured to the public library, a modest stone building 1 block from the courthouse. As she checked out old editions of the Ashgrove Sentinel, the town's weekly newspaper, she noted one peculiar pattern. Every issue contained a single note in bold type, posted near the bottom of the front page. Residents are reminded that movement outside homes after 9 p.m. is strictly prohibited. Compliance ensures safety for all. No reasoning, no explanation for this decree. She asked the librarian, a prim woman named Ms. Langley, who adjusted her spectacles and said, "That note has been there as long as I can remember." Like a ritual. You'll find no answers, only respect for the curfew. Curiosity swirled within Laura like the dense fog that often cozied the edges of Ashgrove during early mornings and late evenings. An inexplicable thread teased at her investigative instincts. She began seeking out locals, engaging them in conversations peppered with subtle inquiries about the curfew's origins. Every encounter followed the same pattern: initial hesitation, averted eyes, and then categorical dismissal. "Better not to ask," people said, or, "The past here carries too much weight." The tone was fraught with unease, bordering on fear. One evening, as Laura sipped coffee in the dimly lit The Fox's Grin Tavern before the 9 p.m. deadline, a man approached her table. He was in his late 50s, weathered but carrying the kind of presence that suggested quiet authority: Sheriff Daniel Hayes. "I hear you asking questions," he said calmly, taking the seat opposite her. Laura studied the sheriff's face. "I want to know the truth." He looked out the window briefly, watching the last stragglers hurry home. When he spoke, his voice was low. "That curfew saved lives. But it's a secret because some truths are too dangerous if they reach the wrong ears." In all due respect, Sheriff, hiding answers breeds suspicion. People deserve to know. He smiled faintly, tired. "You're new here. May that hunger keep you safe." Before Lara could press further, the clock on the tavern's wall glowed 8:59 p.m., and the room grew suddenly quieter. Patrons rose swiftly, grabbing coats, paying tabs. The murmur of concern was palpable as they shuffled toward the exits. "Time to go," the sheriff said, standing and nodding toward the door. Lara's fingers clenched around her cup. She wanted to stay, to defy the intangible rule that chained the town's nights. Just a few more minutes, just one last question. But the sheriff was already walking away. Determined to understand, Lara engineered a plan the next day to remain outdoors after sundown without drawing suspicion. She took long walks along the river trail, timing herself to cross into the 9 p.m. realm a bit undercover, hidden beneath a bulky coat and a cap pulled low. At 9:02 p.m., the quiet riverbank was still, the water sweeping silently beneath the moonlight. The town proper was blanketed in darkness behind her. Suddenly, she noticed something. A flicker of movement near the woods, shadows twisting among the blackened trees no further than a few hundred feet off the path. The air thickened. Reason told her to retreat, but curiosity pulled her closer. As she approached, she saw them, figures moving with uncanny silence dressed in tattered black cloaks, faces half hidden beneath grids of shadow and moonlight. Lara froze, heart pounding. She recognized the emblem stitched faintly on their cloaks, a stylized hourglass surrounded by thorny vines. Then she heard a whisper, chilling in its simplicity, not a sound. Not a soul after dark. The curse awakens. Without warning, the figures dispersed like smoke, melting deeper into the forest's embrace. Lara's skin prickled with a desperate blend of fear and intrigue. She ran back to town under the night's thick shroud. The next day she tried to identify the emblem. The Ashgrove Historical Society had documents and relics tucked in glass cases, but no mention of such a symbol in the town's records. The archivist, a young man named Felix, was intrigued by her discovery. "I've never seen that before," Felix admitted. "There are whispers, though. Legends of an old covenant made centuries ago between Ashgrove's founders and something beyond mortal comprehension." "Something like what?" Lara asked. Felix lowered his voice. "A pact with an entity known as the Wraithbinder, said to inhabit the surrounding forest. The townsfolk promised never to roam after nightfall in exchange for protection. Break the curfew, and the Wraithbinder would come for you." Lara felt a cold shiver run from her neck down her spine. "Why hasn't this ever been official? Why keep it a secret?" she questioned. "It's fear, mostly. Fear and tradition. Sometimes ignorance. And one thing for sure. If the story ever spread, outsiders might try to test it. And the town would pay dearly." With this knowledge, Lara's resolve deepened. She needed concrete proof. Something to validate the legend and explain the curfew's iron grip. The following night, under the guise of darkness and armed with a powerful flashlight and her voice recorder, Lara slipped beyond her cottage's confines and crept back into the heart of the forest. The moon was a thin crescent, barely illuminating the path ahead. Every snapped twig echoed in the empty night, each rustle of leaves a creeping warning. Deeper and deeper she went until the trees parted to reveal an ancient stone circle, half swallowed by time and creeping ivy. The air here was heavy, thick with an oppressive energy that made Lara's every breath catch in her throat. In the center stood a figure cloaked in black, reciting words in a language Lara could not decipher, hands raised toward the dark sky. Around the circle, faint blue wisps spiraled, shimmering like embers trapped in a shadowed fireplace. Suddenly the figure turned, revealing a pale face with eyes like black holes, endless voids sucking light from the world. Heart-hammering, Lara stepped forward, swallowing her fear. "What are you?" she whispered. The figure's mouth shaped silent syllables, but a voice echoed in her mind, deep and ancient. "The Wraithbinder, the Guardian and the Curse. You trespass." Lara's mind reeled, but she forced her voice steady. "Why must this town live in fear? Why the curfew?" The creature's voice rolled like distant thunder. "Because the night is hungry. Because the broken promise invites chaos. You seek the truth, yet not all truths survive the light of day." Then, as sudden as a summer storm, the wisps surged toward Lara, a swirling cold that seized her soul and mind. She felt her body betray her, paralysis spreading like wildfire. The forest closed in, voices intoning in unison around the stone circle. Then silence. When Lara woke, dawn had cracked the sky, and the stone circle was empty. There was no sign of the figure, the wisps, or the ominous chant. Her recorder lay beside her, but when she tried to play it back, only static hissed in her ears. She stumbled back to town, shaken but alive. Days passed, and rumors began to trickle. Stories of missing night wanderers, of shadows stretching too long, of a cold breath sweeping through Ashgrove's streets as the clock neared 9. One evening, she ran into Sheriff Hayes again. This time she pressed him harder. "Tell me everything," she said, voice nearly a whisper. He nodded, almost resigned. Long ago, Ashgrove was a peaceful settlement until settlers disrupted the ancient woods. The Wraithbinder was born from their broken oaths, a guardian twisted into a curse. The curfew is the only barrier holding the darkness at bay. Each night it awaits, watching for trespassers after 9 to reclaim what was lost. Lara shivered. Has anyone tried to break the curfew? Once. A man disappeared without a trace. Since then, no one dares. Ashgrove thrives in silence after 9 because it fears the consequences. The truth is the town's curse. The gravity of it weighed on Lara like a suffocating fog. But then, she made a choice. She wasn't going to live in fear, cloaked in silence and myth. She resolved to break the cycle, find a way to confront the darkness, to free Ashgrove from its nocturnal prison. Her investigations led her to old journals hidden beneath the town archives, worn, handwritten tomes of the founder's descendants. One entry caught her eye, written by Elizabeth Caro, the town's first magistrate. "We forged an accord and sealed it beneath the old oak to contain what lurks beyond. The Wraithbinder's wrath is tethered by a token, a relic lost through generations. Should it be restored, the curse may be lifted." The following morning, Lara spoke with Felix, sharing the discovery. "We can search for that relic," he said, visibly invigorated. "It might be your key." Hours turned to days as they scoured the ancient oak's hollow and combed through cryptic references in the journals. Finally, behind layers of rotting bark, they uncovered a small iron amulet shaped like an hourglass entwined with thorny vines. The precise symbol Lara had seen on the figures in the woods. That night, with the amulet in her hand and only the sheriff and Felix accompanying her, Lara returned to the stone circle. As the clock approached 9, a suffocating chill thickened the forest air. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and dark shapes emerged from the shadows, the cloaked figures, the spectral embodiment of the Wraithbinder. Lara stepped forward, holding the amulet aloft. "We seek peace, not war. Break the curse. Free Ashgrove." The Wraithbinder loomed, a tall figure glowing with malevolent power. Its hollow eyes bore into Lara's soul. Then, with a deep, bone-rattling growl, it lunged toward the amulet. A collision of light erupted. The amulet flashed with fierce brilliance, pushing back the darkness as if a star had crashed into the night itself. The Wraithbinder screamed, A sound like shattering glass and thunder rolled through the woods. Shadows recoiled, retreating into the abyss. Silence then fell, gentle and absolute. The town of Ashgrove stirred with awakening. Lights bloomed behind windows that had long remained dark past 9, doors unlocked. Laughter spilling once again into the cool night air. The curfew was gone. Lara walked back through the now illuminated streets, feeling the weight of history dissolve. She had torn back the veil that had shrouded the town for generations. But as dawn approached, she noticed a faint emblem glowing on the amulet, the hourglass wrapped in thorny vines. It pulsed softly, as if reminding her that while the night had been quelled this time, the ancient forces that lurked in the shadows might one day stir again. And some shadows, she realized, never truly disappear. Ashgrove's tale of silence and fear was broken, but the mystery of what lay beyond the hills lingered. A whisper in the wind, a secret kept by the moon. For more stories like and subscribe.